Hey everyone, I'm Armor Gaming, welcome back to my channel and welcome to Monster Analysis. Up for analysis today is Mr. Scratch. There was an old man who wanted a son, but he couldn't have one, so he built him out of wood. It was only a puppet, so the man asked Mr. Flaky for help, but the monster tricked him, stole the puppet, and breathed dark magic into it. Now Mr. Scratch is Mr. Flaky's ally. Here we have Mr. Scratch when he was just a little toy puppet, a teenage puppet, and his adult form. I gotta say, I really like this monster design, it looks amazing all around, and fortunately for us, we have a fantastic monster design with pretty amazing skills. So first, let's take a look at stats. Actually, before I jump into stats, I have to mention that there are currently 26 magic legendary monsters, so this analysis will be comparing Mr. Scratch to those other 25 magic monsters. So Mr. Scratch has a power of 3,201, and this power makes him tied for 15th place along with monsters like Lernian and Violet. So not necessarily a high power, it's really in the middle. However, I would say that doesn't matter too much considering you're going to see Mr. Scratch is not really an attacker. As for his life, he has a life of 28,651, and a life like this puts him in the running for 9th place along with monsters like Choco Love, Mr. Flaky, Singularis, and Totem. And as for his speed, 3,465, this is the most impressive thing about Mr. Scratch, it makes him tied 5th place along with monsters like Uru, Toymaster, Houdini, and Scar the Outcast. This is a fantastic speed because aside from the monsters I mentioned, he's faster than just about every other magic deny monster. Just about every other magic monster obviously because he's tied for 5th place. The only deny monsters that are faster than Mr. Scratch would have to be Galante, and Galante can only successfully deny one monster, and I guess you could also say Cupid because Cupid is faster than Galante and Cupid does have a single stun skill, so I think that it would only matter in the really later on when you have level 10 runes and you're just looking for the fastest monster to immobilize. But among deny monsters with the AoE deny skill, Mr. Scratch is among the fastest ones for magic monsters. And to make things even better, his trait is immune to possession. So considering he's a magic monster, this is a perfect trait to have. If you ever find yourself in a team wars where the enemy magic monster is faster than your magic monster, then you don't really have to worry because Mr. Scratch is immune to possession. Or even better, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you have better runes than your opponent, then obviously your Mr. Scratch will be going first, and then you can immobilize the enemy monsters, probably not the enemy magic monster, but most likely the enemy attacker and the third monster. So far from the information we have, Mr. Scratch is turning out to be a really good magic monster. So onward to the skills, we have Involuntary Strike, Unconscious Smash. None of these skills are worth talking about, so let's move on to the special, Bounded by Fear. Deals heavy magic damage to all enemies, may apply damage boost to all targets, may possess all targets. This is a magic based AoE that deals 50 damage, and on top of dealing that 50 damage, it also gives damage boost to the enemy monsters, which is a 50% increase to their damage output, and it also possesses the enemy monsters for one turn. Now I really do like that damage boost only lasts one turn, and obviously possession lasts one turn, because we've seen examples of other monsters that get some sort of boost that lasts 2 turns, and then you possess the monster, but then they have a boost, so if you can't kill that monster, there's a high chance they could kill you. So luckily with his ultimate, the damage boost lasts one turn and possession lasts one turn. And it's great that unlike other monsters that get damage reduction or something like that, you're actually making the enemy monster stronger, that way they can defeat themselves. A really great ultimate. Even though this isn't special base, I always prefer when it's special base. Overall, I'm just gonna go ahead and say this is a really good ultimate for this monster. On to skills group 1, we have Hopeless Dreams, Inner Control, Weakening Incantation. None of these skills are worth talking about, so I'm gonna move on to skills group 2. In skills group 2, we have Cursed Mind, deals moderate special damage, may possess target, requires cooldown. This is a special base skill that deals 40 damage to a single enemy monster, it costs 28 stamina, and has a 2-turn cooldown. So you have 40 damage that isn't really strong, but Mr. Scratch is not an attacker, so you don't really need to worry about power. If this skill was no damage, I would still say take it. All you're after is the possession. Cursed Mind is a really good skill. Next up is Soul Siphoning, removes 25% of stamina from all targets, gains up to 60% stamina, requires cooldown. So this skill deals no damage to the enemy monsters, it costs 30 stamina, has a 4-turn cooldown. So this skill does 2 things. First off, it removes 25% of stamina from all of the enemy monsters, so that's 1/4 of their stamina gone. Next, with this skill you can recover up to 60% of your stamina. So the way I'm assuming the skill works, it depends on how many enemy monsters you're facing. If there's only 2 enemy monsters alive and you use Soul Siphoning, you're only going to recover 40% of your stamina. If there's only 1 enemy monster alive and you hit it, it's only going to recover 20% of your stamina. So it's completely dependent on how many monsters you actually hit. And although I do actually like the skill, I actually can't recommend it because most likely you won't really be needing it in the game. The following skills group 2 skill is Debility Hex. Deals low magic damage to all enemies, applies stamina leak to all targets, requires cooldown. This is a magic based AoE that deals 20 damage to all the enemy monsters, it costs 35 stamina, has a 2-turn cooldown, and it gives everyone stamina leak. Now stamina leak will take away 15% of the enemy stamina for the following 3 turns, taking away 20 stamina every turn for a grand total of 60 stamina. Pretty good, but again that is over the course of 3 turns. but once again, this is another skill I don't recommend. So then we move on to skills group 3, and we have Exhausting Spell. Deals moderate special damage, removes 50% of stamina from target, requires cooldown. So it's a special based attack that deals 40 damage to a single enemy monster, costs 28 stamina, has a 2-turn cooldown. And once again, with this monster, you're not after the damage output, you're after effects. Removing 50% stamina, that can really come in handy. That can mean the difference between winning a game and losing a game. You definitely want this skill. And next up is the Many Evils. Applies 2 random negative effects to all targets, requires cooldown. This is a magic based AoE that deals no damage to the enemy monsters. It costs 30 stamina, has a 4-turn cooldown, and it applies 2 random negative effects, and these are all the different negative effects you can actually land. So one of the most fun things you can do in Monster Legends is just apply random negative effects to the enemy monsters and just hope that something amazing lands. Maybe you'll drain all their stamina, maybe you'll stun them, maybe you'll freeze them, maybe you'll burn them. There are so many different random negative effects, but there's also some not very good random negative effects that could potentially land. So that is something to keep in mind. Nonetheless, this is a really good skill and something I do recommend. And last but not least, we have Cruel Puppetry. May possess all targets, requires cooldown. It's a magic based AoE that deals no damage to the enemy monsters, costs 26 stamina, has a 3-turn cooldown, and it's your AoE possession, typical with a lot of magic deny monsters. And it goes without saying that Mr. Scratch is a deny monster, therefore you absolutely have to run this skill. So as for the skills you should run on Mr. Scratch, it would be Cursed Mind, the Many Evils, Cruel Puppetry, and Exhausting Spell. In my opinion, you really don't need to worry about Debilitating Hex or Soul Siphoning, and in fact, if you are running Cruel Puppetry and the Many Evils, you really don't want a third AoE. There's hardly any time when you need to run 3 AoEs, you most likely will not be using all 3 in a single game. You probably could use 2 AoEs and you probably will be using them, but then you do want to have Exhausting Spell for whenever you need to drain that last remaining stamina from the enemy monster, and of course you are going to want to run Cursed Mind, especially to possess the enemy attacker, because most likely if you use Mr. Scratch in Team Wars, the enemy magic monster is going to be immune to possession, but nonetheless you're still going to start the game off with Cruel Puppetry, which means you're going to possess the enemy attacker and you're going to possess a third monster. Then the enemy magic monster will go, and most likely it's going to do its AoE possession skill. Now if your attacker is immune to possession, you're obviously going to be possessed. The enemy attacker on the other hand, it's going to be possessed, so it's going to attack its own team. It's either going to attack its third monster, it's going to attack the magic monster, or it's going to attack itself. But regardless of what monster it attacks, because it's an attacker, you can imagine it's going to deal quite a bit of damage. Then, depending on what the third monster is, if it's a rare, uncommon, or below, it's probably going to go back to the legendaries. And then Mr. Scratch will get his turn in, and then you have different options. You can use the Many Evils if you want to take your chance with luck, or if I was playing, I'd probably use the Cursed Mind on the enemy attacker once again. So for sure, you want to be running the single possession skill, the AoE stamina leak, and the AoE 25% stamina drain that honestly isn't needed. And as for the rune set for Mr. Scratchy, he is a deny monster, therefore you would go all speed runes, the best speed runes you have. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, this monster is tied for 5th place in terms of being the fastest magic monster. So in terms of base speed alone, he's faster than just about every other magic monster. Thus, if you and your opponent have the exact same level speed runes, Mr. Scratch should be going before them. And with that being said, that is going to conclude my analysis on Mr. Scratch. I really hope everyone enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think about this monster. Do you like him? Do you dislike him? How do you think he compares to the other magic monsters? Specifically, I know this debate is going on a lot. How do you think he compares to Egg Eater? Do you think he's better than Egg Eater? Do you think he's worse than Egg Eater? Let me know in the comments below, and please give me a reason why you think he's either worse or better. And like always, I hope everyone has a great amazing day or a great amazing night. Remember to dream big and pursue your passions.